This might be the greatest night in Chicago sports history since 2016. Man, it has been a long time since we've come to you guys, and there's been a lot of news. We're going to get to it right now. My name is Joey Maxwell, alongside my host, Andrew Maxwell. And wow, the Cubs have made some moves. First of all, tonight, the Cubs signed Alex Bregman to a 5-year, $175 million deal. And a couple days before, traded for Edward Cabrera. We're going to go through all of it this episode. Andrew, what are we feeling about the Cubs right now?
Man, hey, also shout out to the Chicago Bears over at Soldier Field, taking care of the Green Bay Packers. I believe I saw it was the biggest comeback since the Patriots and Falcons in playoff history. So that was awesome. A lot of fun to watch. While the Bears were down by quite a bit, we were downstairs. We had this whole show kind of set up. And I go, oh, after looking at my phone. And my dad and Joey are like, what happened? And I go, Alex Bregman to the Cubs from Jeff Passan. And we all kind of lost it.
It was crazy.
It was amazing. Later came out that it was 5 years, $175 million. And that kind of jump started the Bears comeback, I guess, in a way. It probably had nothing to do with it, but let's say it did. But anyways, I'm stoked about the Alex Bregman signing. Like I said, we had this whole show planned out. We were going to talk about Edward Cabrera. We were going to talk about arbitration. We were going to get you guys all the details when it comes to that. And we're still going to talk about that. Maybe not as much with the arbitration type of stuff right now, but we're definitely going to talk about Alex Bregman and Edward Cabrera tonight. Alex Bregman is, probably a bigger fish than Edward Cabrera. He's been in the league since 2016, and he has such a huge track record of success. And looking at his Baseball Savant page, he's basically been the same player for 10 years. For his whole career. And that is a person that gets on base, a person that doesn't strike out, puts the ball in play, backspins the ball like a menace, doesn't hit the ball too hard, but when you're backspinning the ball, balls can fly even at Wrigley Field, especially with their short gaps in left center, which is probably the only place the ball flies when the wind is blowing in because of the scoreboard there. And he can walk, so he gets on base. And I heard people trying to compare him to Isaac Paredes.
Let's hope it's a better fit than that, because that didn't work out too well.
Isaac Paredes was a complete pull side hitter, and while Bregman does like to hit to the pull side, Bregman sprays the gaps a lot more than Isaac Paredes, and Paredes has a higher launch angle by a long shot. So Paredes didn't work out with the Cubs a couple years ago when they had him. I think Bregman's going to be a great fit.
Yeah, I'm breaking down Alex Bregman's deal. So 5 years, $175 million. He has a full no trade clause and no opt-outs. So if the Cubs want to trade him, he can say no, and he doesn't get to opt out of his contract after every year. So goods and bads for the Cubs. It's an average of $35 million a year, which is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's the third biggest contract in franchise history behind Dansby Swanson and Jason Hayward. Let's hope it works out a little better than Jason Hayward, but I think it will. Going over more of his stats, he's a career 272 hitter, 365 on base, 481 slugging with an OPS of 846. That's going to be really good. He had similar production last year with the Red Sox. Missed a little bit of time, but nothing too major, so I don't think it should be much of a concern. But he's gonna fit really well into this lineup. The only concern that a lot of Cub fans might have is, what does this mean for Shaw? There's been Matt Shaw has played third base last year and maybe could be better. We don't really know what's going on with him. There's also been reports that Nico Hoerner is available for trade. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
I obviously don't want to see Nico Hoerner traded. I don't think there's a reason to. I think with Nico Hoerner in the lineup with Alex Bregman, it'll make a huge difference. Our lineup, honestly, now is pretty stacked. We could throw Bregman in the 2 slot or 3 slot, take Ian Happ out of there, because as he's he's an above average hitter, we can say, right?
Yeah.
He's an above average hitter, but he should not be hitting third on a team that is now heavily favored. I don't know if heavily favored is the right word, but favored to win the NL Central over the Brewers after this signing. Talking about Matt Shaw, I think Matt Shaw still needs a little bit of development with the bat. Now, he showed he can play Gold Glove caliber defense, as he was a Gold Glove finalist at third base. Great. That's awesome. That's what the Cubs shine with. That is their MO as an organization. They won the team Gold Glove.
Yep.
Bregman's no slouch at third base either. Can you check really quick to see if he's won a Gold Glove?
He won a Gold Glove in 2024.
Okay,
so that's pretty recent.
Not too long ago. So and he's had above average fielding stats, fielding metrics for basically his whole career. So I mean, that chalks up a good bat with a good glove. That's exactly what the Cubs are looking for. I don't think there's any reason to trade Nico. I mean, he's both of our favorite players, so we have a little bit of the homer side of that. But going back to Shaw, I think he could be potentially. We talked about this a little bit. He could be a super utility type of guy. I mean, he came up he was a shortstop in college, came up working at second base in the minors, and then once the Cubs realized, hey, we don't have a third baseman of the future, boom, they moved him over to third base. So he can play any infield position defensively. He gives us a lot of options late in games, and a great option off the bench if we have a potential injury or we need a pinch hit spot against a lefty. A good spot, Moises Ballesteros is probably going to get the runway as the strong side platoon for the DH role this year. Yeah. And Matt Shaw could potentially play the short side if we need it.
Yeah, and with Nico Horner being on his last year, this could be more of like a segue into him maybe taking over the reins at second next year. There's still an option for Horner to get extended, but as of right now, it's going to be Horner's last year. So I don't see any reason to have Shaw down in the minors this year.
No.
I think he will be a solid bench bat. I think they might kind of do the same thing with Kevin Alcantara, with Hap and Seiya both being gone next year too. They might kind of have him in the bench role and kind of seeing how he does, if he can be our starter after this year.
There's a lot of trade talks. I don't see why they would do that. I think they can afford this year to have the depth with quality young guys and try to go all in, which obviously they're trying to do with this Bregman signing and then the trade for Cabrera, trading a young bat. So they have to keep some young talent because, like we've talked about a couple times already, even on this show, they're not going to have hardly anybody on the books after this next year. So they need, as Joey already said, next year could be Matt Shaw's opportunity to take the reins at second base.
Yeah, so
or we could move Bregman to second. He said he's open to that, right?
Yeah. I think he could perfectly be capable of doing that too.
Next year,
yeah.
2027. Yes,
correct. Jumping over, the Cubs also
before we get into Edward Cabrera, we need to give Jed Hoyer and Tom Ricketts a shout out.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if we've really expressed too much on our show. This is only our third episode about how irritated we've been with the ownership group and how cheap we feel they have been, because we know that they can spend money and they can go out and get these guys. They finally did it. They went the cheap route with Edward Cabrera. That's fine. If we got a big bat, guess what? We went out on the market, got one of the big four.
Yep. We've definitely criticized the ownership and Jed Hoyer at points, but we're ecstatic about these deals that are happening. We're excited for this season. Only a couple months away. So moving over to the pitching side of things, the Cubs traded for Edward Cabrera, pitcher from the Marlins. The whole deal of that is, so the Cubs got Edward Cabrera, and in return they got our top prospect Owen Casey and other prospects Christian Hernandez and Edgardo De Leon. Christian Hernandez is a infielder prospect that never fully panned out in the Cubs system, and Edgardo De Leon is only an 18-year-old, so that's just kind of a see what happens kind of move. But the big fish in this is Owen Casey. I think that's a good fit for the Marlins too. So I think it's more of a win-win.
Yeah. Also about Edgardo De Leon, I had never heard of this guy. I saw one swing of his bat, and it was probably the most aggressive swing I've seen of any minor leaguer. Honestly,
Yeah.
He's swinging for the fences, so he could potentially make an impact way down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like when the Cubs traded for Owen Casey when they traded Yu Darvish to the Padres. Owen Casey was an 18-year-old at the time and made his way through the minors, and he wasn't necessarily the big fish in that trade. And now all of a sudden he was our number 1 or number 2 prospect, depending on what list you looked at. And now he gets shipped off for a big pitcher for us. So Christian Hernandez, I've heard a lot about over the years. I believe we got him in the international draft or the international signing, signing period. And it sucks to lose prospects, but other than Casey, because we kind of saw what he can do in the majors, prospects are suspects until they get called up, and it doesn't matter what they do in the minors, because do any of us really care about how the South Bend Cubs do?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, whatever.
Nobody's
it's fun.
paying attention.
Nobody's paying attention to that. We don't care about their record. We care about the Chicago Cubs. That's what ultimately matters at the end of the day. That's what this whole organization is about. So, Owen Casey, it sucks to lose him. He was probably the guy that I had in mind to trade if we were going to trade a prospect. Both of us have expressed our love of Moises Ballesteros and his hit tool. And I think the Cubs are feeling the same way, as they are unwilling to part with him. At least that's kind of what we've seen.
Yeah, and Seiya is most likely going to be taking the reins in right field. I think we knew that was probably going to happen since Tucker is no longer coming back to the Cubs. I think that's pretty much finalized.
Hey, they're spending, dude. Maybe they can do it. Maybe they can do it.
But Seiya improved a little bit last year in right field, so I think we knew that Casey was a little bit blocked there, since Moises Ballesteros probably has better hit tool to be a DH. So we knew if a deal like this was going to happen, that Casey was most likely going to be in it. Going back to Edward Cabrera, he had a great year last year for the Marlins. He had his career high in innings, 137, and career high in basically pretty much everything. He had a 3.5 ERA, a lot of strikeouts with this guy. That's kind of the high upside part of Edward Cabrera, something that the Cubs lack a lot of in their starting rotation. He offers really good upside for the Cubs in this rotation, giving them a lot of depth as well.
Yeah, and then going back to Owen Casey really quickly, I forgot to mention he's a huge power-hitting outfielder. He's going to fit in great in the Marlins outfield. He'll probably start on opening day for them. Somewhere in the outfield, probably right field. So good get for them. They have a plethora of pitching and talent that throws hard out of the pen and mostly in the starting rotation. So this is something they could afford to do. So Joey mentioned some of the upside of Edward Cabrera. Yeah, we talked about it, I believe, in our inaugural episode about how the Cubs starting rotation needs velocity. They had their organizational philosophy is get ground balls, get outs, play into the elite defense that the Cubs have built, which is, I agree with that. However, you need someone to mix it up, and that's what Edward Cabrera could do. Throws 98, 95 mile an hour changeup, which is just ridiculous. It's a good pitch. His curveball's nasty, and he has some other pitches in development as well. A lot of these high velocity guys like to stick to 2 to 3 pitch mixes in the starting rotation nowadays, and I'm not opposed to that. If you can get, he added the sinker last year too. Also, he added the sinker that really helped him get ground balls, which is going to play very well into the Cubs defense. So if he can stay healthy, and that's a big if, that's something I'm about to get to, he could slot into the number 1 spot in a rotation. Realistically, he's probably a number 2 or 3, because we have a bunch of guys that can be very effective out of the rotation. The only thing that is, I guess there's a couple things with Edward Cabrera. He gets injured a lot, and guys that throw hard, that's a common denominator. I mean, that velocity is a common denominator for injuries. It's been proven time and time again. Just in the last 2 seasons, 2024 and 2025, he was hurt 13 times. He didn't go to the IL for all of those. He went the majority of them he did, but 13 times, and they were almost all with his throwing elbow. And in September of last year, he had a sprained UCL, and it almost shut him down for the year. He came back, made a couple starts, but I mean, we know the Cubs tried the same thing last offseason to get Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins, and he failed the Cubs physical. Edward Cabrera passed the Cubs physical. I don't know what to make of that, but it it's definitely, it's something I'm scared about. He has not had Tommy John yet, which
a good sign.
Right, it's a good sign, but also I get a little scared because guys that throw hard, they almost all nowadays end up getting Tommy John. So I feel like it's just a matter of time. Hopefully it's not within the next 3 years when the Cubs have him. And he also walks a lot of guys. That's the other thing. He walks a lot of guys. Over his career, he's gone pretty much every year he's cut his walk rate down. He was at 15 or 16% to start his career, and that's unsustainable. That's why his ERA was so high. And but he was able to get that down, and his ERA went along with it.
Yeah, so he had his career high in innings, as I said earlier, but this was the only time he's got over 100 innings in his career. He came up in 2021 and has been effective at times, but the promising side is that he seemed like he kind of unlocked something last year, and I think that's what the Cubs finally took the flyer on and said, all right, let's get this guy, get him in the pitching lab, see what we can unlock also with him. But he's a high ground ball guy, which works well in this infield. I think it's also something the Cubs kind of identified. And
47% ground ball rate.
Yeah, that's good. And I think with the injuries of Edward Cabrera and the injury histories of our whole starting rotation, I think having a lot of depth like this is going to be really great for the Cubs. And
his strikeout rate has gradually climbed over the course of his career. It's been kind of consistent around 25% strikeout rate, but it climbed from 24 to 25, a slight margin, while his walk rate has gone down. In 2021, he had a 16% walk rate. 22 was 11%. 23 was back up to 15, and that's when he really struggled. And then 24, he cut it down to 12, and 25 this past season, it was 8%. And that's, I mean, with a strikeout rate of more than a fourth of the batters he faces and a walk rate of 8%, that's a winning combination.
For sure. And I'm really excited about Edward Cabrera. I think he's going to be great. Moving over a little bit, the Cubs seem like they might be done, but who knows? They just spent big bucks on Alex Bregman. That takes his $35 million takes the Cubs right to the tax threshold. So if they go past the tax threshold, that means that the money that they spend from there on out, they'll be taxed 20%. And they are quite literally $200,000 away from the tax threshold. So if they spend any more money this offseason, they're going to be going over it. So a lot of people are thinking, all right, the Cubs are done. What do you think, Andrew? I say no, but at this point, I'm not sure.
I think they're done with big moves. They might sign another bench bat, maybe to a minor league deal with the camp invite. I mean, that's how they got Vidal Brujan last year. I mean, that none of those guys were impact bats off the bench last year. But if they are truly trying to stay under the tax, which they have a pretty thin margin now for
Cutting it
error,
close.
Then they'll probably either, I assume now they'll stick with Alcantara as a fourth outfielder, and maybe they'll call up someone else to be another bat. But they still have a couple spots open on the 40-man roster, so I know there are moves to be made. Whether or not it's in the free agent market, we will have to see. But how about what a night for Chicago sports? What a couple days for the Chicago Cubs. It's been kind of an irritating offseason. They got their bullpen done. They got their starting pitching staff done, and their starting lineup
Yeah.
is essentially done. It's one of the best in the league now, and I'm excited to see where this takes us.
Yeah, they checked pretty much all my boxes for the offseason so far. So I'm hype. I'm ready for the season to start.
Cubs.
Go Cubs, man. I've been so excited to do this show ever since the Edward Cabrera trade, and now we signed Bregman, and this is where it starts. The Cubs are going to be a very good team, and we're gonna see how it goes. Thank you guys for watching Cubs Corral. I'm Joey Maxwell. This is Andrew Maxwell, and go Cubs.